and Lords podcast.
Welcome to the Lord's Minute, our quick hit video series where we talk about all the biggest happenings in gaming and beyond. I'm your host, Ty Swinson, writer for Lords of Gaming and a little bit more festive today. And with me once again is Lord King. So we both have seen Spider-Man No Way Home, and we have a lot of thoughts to discuss. We're going to hit a few points here, but this is your warning to everyone watching now. We will be going into spoilers. If you have not watched the movie, I advise coming back to Lord's Minute. Otherwise, you will be spoiled. So I'm going to give it to Lord King first. What are your thoughts and how are we feeling on the movie? Favorite moments, things like that.
Okay, so this movie is a ton to unpack. My wife and I went to the 4DX movie theater, and so for people that has never been to the 4DX movie theater, the chair that you sit in, it's a roller coaster ride. It immerses you with sounds, feels, visuals, and like it's so crazy because is the lightning bolts when Electro was doing the lightning bolts, they have flash pops like around at the top, so it's like and then when they were near the water, anytime they was near the water or anything like that, water would spray on you, and the chair would move, and then it's in 3D, so it's really a treat for your senses. So sometimes I may go a little bit overboard in my assessment of the movie is because it was such a visual treat. Now, with that being said, and that caveat out of the way, I believe this is the best Spider-Man film made. Now, and
total.
and it's an entirety because I don't count the Venom films as Spider-Man films.
Right.
And we'll get to that when we talk about end credit scenes. I count the 3 films with Tobey, the 2 films with Andrew Garfield, and the 2 films with Tom Holland. And this being this last film. So any issues, any plot holes that we did have, this film fixed all the other films. So they address little things like Tobey manufacturing web fluid. They address little facts that Andrew's Spider-Man really didn't encounter any aliens, any off-world type of entities. Everything was like home-based, so he was really the real friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. But they kept hammering home, bro, you're amazing. You're amazing. They kept harping on the tropes of each Spider-Man where Tobey always wanted his face out. And they're like, yo, where's your suit? And he's like, it's here. So it's like a little trope there. And the trope that Andrew Garfield is like the emo Spider-Man. Yeah. And he's like always in his feels. But then they gave the reasons behind all the thoughts between these characters. And the Tom Holland character expression that he's number one. Like, I'm the number one Spider-Man, you're number 2. And Andrew's like, okay, I guess I'm number 3, whatever. So all those little tropes there, even to the villains, they gave you, excuse me, the best version of each villain. They gave you the best version of Electro. They changed his electricity from blue to yellow. And they explained that from the energy that he was receiving when he came to this world. Now, the difference between all the other characters knew that Peter Parker was Spider-Man, except for Electro. Now, that's a plot hole there that I can overlook to the point that he was actually a fulcrum in this whole thing. Because it was his decision on going with it that actually turned the Sinister Six into the Sinister Six. So, he was the reluctant villain, but he didn't want to die. So that aspect of it. It was a conflicted villain, but they also address, excuse me, the part with Jamie Foxx, his character in the film, that he was a nerd, he was goofy. He's like, last time I saw you had buck teeth and glasses on. What's up with your weird hair? And they addressed it because it just never fit. Those little tropes just really never fit. They let you know that Green Goblin was a huge scientist with a big brain. He just went insane. Dr. Octopus wasn't like that, but they explained why. The Sandman really just wanted to get back to his kid. He really had no malice, but he was forced to be along with these guys because he didn't want his stuff to end. He was easily convinced, type of thing. They gave you the best versions of all the characters that we had there, but they also explain loss. And Tom Holland's Spider-Man never had an Uncle Ben that they talked about, never had an Uncle Ben that died. But with great power comes great responsibility, was said from Aunt May. And he's like, how the hell you know what she said in her last moments? Because these things were said to them from dying people that meant the most to them at that period of time. So I'm happy that they didn't cop out. They didn't flinch in those moments that they needed to show strength. They needed to show that the Green Goblin on his serum, fully powered up, is as powerful as Spider-Man. He power bombed the dude through 5 floors.
Yep.
It showed Spider-Man grow from a boy to a man. He shed all the Stark tech.
Yep.
All the Stark tech was removed. He made his suit by hand. The last suit is indicative of John Romita Jr.'s artwork on Spider-Man when he came from the silver, bronze, and gold age into the current age, and he was taking over the book. It was a magnificent rebranding of the character, and I think Tom Holland captured that essence in that last couple of scenes where he made his suit. He came into his own. He moved into his apartment alone, on his own, and he had to figure it out. He was going to figure out how to be a man, a Spider-Man now. And I just thought it was the perfect little bow on top of this wonderful gift that Amy Pascal and Kevin Feige brought to us, because a lot of us knew all the plots and stuff like that kind of from the stuff that we was hearing, and we heard Andrew was there and we heard Toby was there. We just didn't know how it was going to come about.
Yeah.
And they didn't force feed it to us early. Mm-hmm. It came so organically and in such a manner that seems so natural. And the comedic relief in certain aspects of it was magnificent, how they did it and how they pulled it off. They pulled it off a little bit at the point where you was like, I guess they're not in the film. And then boom, they're in the film. And you're like, oh my God, this is really happening. Mm-hmm. Just don't fumble the ball. Please don't fumble the ball. Please don't fumble the ball.
That theater was cheering when those portals opened.
I had such goosebumps. It was the movie was math versus magic. Mm-hmm. Peter has always been a math dude. He was always had the ability to figure out the equation because he's hella smart. And I'm glad that they worked that angle, because when he was in a prism with Doctor Strange, he's fighting Doctor Strange. And he said a prism is just a math equation that needs to be solved. And he solved the math equation and left and took Strange. He had the presence of mind to take Strange ring. I love the fact that they touched on Spider-Man's mind moves independently with him conscious or unconscious, his body will move to keep him out of
Yep.
harm.
Hmm.
And Doctor Strange didn't know that. It took him off guard when he was trying to take the fulcrum, the MacGuffin out of
Yep.
the hand of Spider-Man's unconscious body when he knocked him out of his soul, knocked his soul out of his body. And Spider-Man was like, wow, this is real. He can feel the tingling and stuff like that. And he was swimming to get back to his body. But that part is it. These things are huge aspects that they touched on that people may think that these are small little tidbits, but these are huge tidbits for later in other films, so that now they planted seeds that have been in the books for years, but they have touched on different aspects that I never imagined that they would even journey to.
Right. They definitely as you said, there's a lot of stuff I liked about this movie, but more importantly than anything, I like the way that they are setting up Tom Holland's Spider-Man for the next trilogy going forward.
Yes.
As you said, the math versus science thing. This is in this movie out of the entire trilogy, this is the most that we have seen of Tom Holland's Peter Parker using his mind and his brain to fix stuff and work things out. Because in the comics, that's a well-known fact. Peter Parker is one of the smartest people in the Marvel comics, and that's
Yes.
often overlooked. Um, so to see him go through that, to see his, as the MCU calls it, the tingle, but the spider sense being developed even more,
Yeah.
is great. And the collaboration between Tom, Toby, and Andrew was just huge. It was definitely a moment as these generations were colliding.
Yes.
And seeing them work together in the final act, swinging together when they're finally bringing their heads to work as one in tandem.
Even when they were in the lab working together,
Hmm.
and they were showing you, because they showed past Spider-Man their intelligence. And
Yeah,
like
yeah,
you
yeah.
said,
Andrew's like, oh, I'll just cure Lizard again. I've done it
yeah,
before. It's no big deal. No big deal.
exactly. It was truly incredible. But keep going, because so we can get to like the end credit scene. So
Right, right, and yeah, and overall the resolution happened pretty similarly to how I imagined it, because the overarching storyline was taken straight from the comics.
yes.
So of course everyone forgot that Peter Parker was Spider-Man, and that set things up
What are you
with
talking about with No Tomorrow?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
and that
yeah,
that day when Peter had made a deal with the devil in the comics,
yeah.
but
And
here was Doctor
Mephisto.
Strange.
Yeah.
Um, and and we saw as Strange was closing the portal, we saw some tidbits of some multiverse people that's coming forward. I think I spotted Craven in one of them,
Yes.
that I really enjoyed, and of course the other Spider-Man and the villains, they were sent back home, and then that leads up to the first end credit scene, setting up for future films of Venom. My boy Venom. Finally, I was wondering, like, oh, is he not gonna be in the movie at all after that last end credit scene? But they gave us a little bit, and that he was trying to catch up on what's happening with the MCU, but he was
Right.
also affected by the spell and sent back. But before he was sent back, a little bit of the symbiote once again had broken off of Eddie and Venom and was left into the MCU. Now, as people who've seen other Spider-Man movies, of course, with Tobey Maguire, Sam Raimi, Spider-Man 3, we've
Mm-hmm.
seen that storyline hashed out. We've seen it time and time again in the comics and in TV shows. We didn't get that with Andrew Garfield. Of course, Andrew didn't fight an alien. But here, I'm curious, King, because we still have Venom Tom Hardy
Right.
as a character that's going to continue on. He's getting a Venom 3. Um, how do you think that they're going to handle this plot line with the symbiote moving forward with Tom Holland Spider-Man?
Okay, well, Tom Holland's, Tom Hardy's Venom is not in the
Mhm.
MCU.
Yes,
All right,
correct.
so he won't, excuse me, interact with Tom Holland at all.
Mhm.
The symbiote that we do have, and what, if you look at the end credit scene in Venom, There Will Be Carnage,
Yes.
they explained that the symbiotes has crossed over the multiverse all over. So that explains why he knew who Spider-Man was and why he was called to all the people that knew who Peter Parker was pulled into the world.
Right. It was like that
right?
subconscious hive mind. Venom in the
Minds.
moment might not have been recollecting that information, but he still knew.
Yeah, because it was hive mind. So
Hmm.
now, see, the biggest gripe with people with Venom, Tom Hardy's Venom, is he doesn't have the emblem on his chest.
Right.
Right, never came out. He doesn't shoot webs. He's very a brute. He doesn't stick to walls. He claws up walls, and he moves very lumbersome. And if you go through Tobey Maguire's Venom, webs, emblem, very fast but strong. So what I believe is this Venom will find his way to Spider-Man, and he will interact with Spider-Man in that manner, get the webs, get the emblem, and that Spider-Man will be in the MCU. Because and he won't be the comic relief, he will actually be how Venom was supposed to be. He will probably
Right.
find an Eddie Brock of that world, and it will go that way. Now, is a couple of things that I would like to address. I would like to address the Hobgoblin.
With
Ned
Ned.
Leeds will become the Hobgoblin.
Yeah.
They touched on it when he said, "I will never kill you. I will never, try to harm you." Um, yeah, but once your mind got erased, you no
They set that up
longer
pretty nice.
is set up for Spider-Man, and Ned Leeds is going to MIT, where that stuff it will happen. We will get that in later films because the Hobgoblin is a huge character that you can't mismanage, and it has to be done in a proper manner. That will come across. Now, there were 4 Spider-Mans in that movie. And I know you're saying, like, how was it 4 Spider-Man? Okay, so the last end credit scene, if you see 3 is the magic number, 3 is the magic number is the song that they ended off with. Now, 3 is the magic number is from Schoolhouse Rock. Schoolhouse Rock is on PBC. PBC had the electric company Spider-Man. If you looked at all those Spider-Man moving around, 4 Spider-Man will pop up at some point in time in that whole electric stair labyrinth thing.
Okay.
That represents the 4th Spider-Man from the electric company. That's why they did 3 is the magic number. Everybody thought 3 is the magic number was representative of 3 Spider-Man in the movie. No, they was hearkening back to electric company Spider-Man as well. So it was just a little tidbit. And I, like a little kid, felt 8 years old again, and I went and downloaded the song, and I drove my wife crazy driving home listening to 3 is the magic number. Even started the show because I do a little thing on Iron Lord's podcast when when we're in the green room, I play music, and I was playing 3 is the magic number. So, it's one of my little guilty pleasures, and I just felt from top to bottom, and even ending on that, respecting the character, Stan Lee is up above, and he said bravo, because him and Steve Ditko brought this character to life, and Amy Pascal deserves a ton of credit. Kevin Feige and the team deserves a ton of credit, and they brought all that together and wrapped the ball. I don't think there will be a better Spider-Man film than this going forward. I could be wrong, because I thought that the Tom Holland films were getting better and better, and it was challenging my opinions and my notions for best Spider-Man. I've always stuck with Andrew Garfield as being the best Spider-Man, and Tom Holland as the best combination of Peter Parker and Spider-Man, and Toby the best Peter Parker, even though he was this middle-aged dude playing a teenager. But it all just wrapped it up into one beautiful bow.
Yep. Salute to Kevin Feige and the team, Amy Pascal, everyone who worked on the movie. As King said, there might not be another moment like this in cinema in our near lifetime, but we hope to be wrong, because it definitely knocked it out of the park. This was very emotional for a lot of people. This colliding of generations, it was huge, and Spider-Man is really that hero, the one to make it happen for something like this experience. to come to life in the cinema. And we're very excited to see where the MCU and Tom Holland story goes forward. And it's just a good time to be a comics fan.
Yeah, it gives a lot of hope for whatever is on the slate because I'm watching Hawkeye now and
Yep.
all the wonderful fan service they're doing there. It just makes you break out your books and just start reading because I actually
Yeah.
did it the other day, so it's incredible stuff.
Yeah. So salute to everyone, fellow comic lovers all over. But this has been the Lord's Minute. Thank you so much for joining us on this a little bit longer episode today, but we had to hash out Spider-Man what we were feeling. We're here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at lordsofgaming.net. I'm Ty Swenson here with Lord King, and this has been the Lord's Minute.
Peace.